You're tuned in to Shake, Rattle, and Goal, the official podcast of your Springfield Thunderbirds.
Osmanski, a one-timer deflected side of the goal. Alexandrov scores!
Hosted by Matt Baker and Steve Forney. A show that's everything Springfield hockey, with interviews including players, coaches, and staff.
The Springfield Indians repeat as the Calder Cup champions.
Listen to this podcast on all major streaming platforms and wherever you download podcasts.
In his first year at the helm, Kevin McDonald and Drew Bannister have the Teamers in the Calder Cup Finals.
Watch the podcast on the official Shake, Rattle, and Goal YouTube page at SRG Podcast.
And now, here are your hosts, Matt Baker and Steve Forney.
And this episode number 9 of the Shake, Rattle, and Goal podcast is proudly brought to you by our friends at White Lion Brewing in Tower Square in downtown Springfield and their new location in Amherst, your go-to pregame spot for Springfield Thunderbirds game. It was nice to actually, Matt and I met briefly at White Lion. I hadn't been, so I wanted to kind of see what it was all about. So pregame, I'm going to sort of met you there the other night.
Yeah, so we were there pregame Saturday night. We also, Steve, will be there Thursday, November 16th. For the celebrity bartending from 6 to 7. Bax from the Rock 102 morning show will be joined with Joey Duzak and Hunter Skinner from 6 to 7. They'll be bartending over at White Lion. And then from 7 to 8, Nagel, Jamison Reese, and Wyatt Kalinuk will also be bartending. And your boys here at SRG will be recording live. We'll be doing a live podcast, a live show from their boomer room is what they call it. So we're really excited about that. Come join us. It is to support the Mayflower Marathon that Rock 102 puts on every November. You bring your canned goods, your non-perishable food items. Come support White Lion, support Mayflower Marathon. Come say hi to us, and maybe we could even get you on for a hot take or two. But we'll be there. That is Thursday, November 16th from 6 to 8 p.m. at White Lion in Springfield.
Yeah, and we're guests. I mean, we're happy to have anybody come on over and well, anybody within reason. I don't want my mom showing up and wanting to get on. But Nagel has mentioned that he'll come on and talk to us for a little bit. Maybe we can grab some players. I'm sure there's going to be other Thunderbird staff that are going to be there that we can talk to and have on. And again, this is going to be live streamed on our YouTube channel. So follow us again, Shake, Rattle, and Gold. Just pop it into YouTube. We're going to pop right up. We're also going to try to, I'm still trying to figure out the configurations, but we will hopefully be able to turn that into an audio podcast as well. So if you do miss it, it'll obviously be on YouTube, but hopefully we'll be able to get it on Spotify and YouTube for you as Spotify and Apple Podcasts for you as well. So I'm looking forward to it. It's the first time we've done a remote broadcast. The guys at White Lion are super pumped for it. I think the Thunderbirds are super pumped. And again, in Rock 102. And, you know, I'm not trying to like name drop or anything, but Bax and Nagel are two of the nicest guys you're ever going to meet. In radio, there's a lot of egos. All right. I worked in radio for a long time. You got to love yourself to hear yourself talk for 4 hours a day. Those are two extremely humble guys who are just thrilled to have more community involvement. And I think we've seen that from them over the years. We've seen that from White Lion. And we're just trying to, again, as Kevin Johnson would say, if they're the steak and potatoes, we are just going to be the garnish that comes on the side. But we are really excited for that opportunity. And I can't wait. So let's hope I bring all the right cords, cables, batteries, everything else that we need. But
I wish I could help you there, but I'll be sitting co-pilot for you on that one.
You're gonna get an engineering lesson. That's what's gonna happen, Matt Baker. So alongside Matt Baker, I'm Steve Forney, and episode number 9. We have a ton to get to. Obviously a pretty successful weekend, at least at home for the Thunderbirds. Yeah. Another 3-3, but the 2 games at home went very, very well. I know you were in the building on Saturday. I think you got I know you were busy on Friday night, but definitely a lot of stuff going on there as well. And then of course on Sunday, the game in Bridgeport, I gotta be honest, I kind of forgot it was on. I don't know. Sundays are busy and chaotic, and you put on football and all of a sudden it's 4:30 and you're like, oh, the Thunderbirds game's been on for an hour and a half. Where have I been? But from what we gather, it wasn't exactly wasn't a lot going on in that one.
It was a weird. I mean, I missed the first few minutes of the first period there on Sunday, but managed to watch the rest of it. We'll break it down for you, but it
Yeah.
was it was the third 3-3. There were some tired legs, I think.
Yeah, I think that's going to continue. I think as long as we have these 3-on-3s, I think you're going to get some really bad Sunday hockey, and that's not a shot at the Thunderbirds. I think any team that you force to play 3 games in 3 days is going to be some rough around the edges come Sunday. But if we rewind a little bit and go back to Friday, and I know if you were in the building on Friday, things got a little weird. Things got a little crazy, and the talk. What bothers me is that the Thunderbirds picked up a big 6-3 win over a team that played well. I mean, Belleville has guys out there that can grind. They have a goalie who was the player of the week or player of the month.
Player of the month. He
Yeah,
was goaltender of the month. Sugard.
Yeah.
Sugard. Yeah.
And again, this guy, a goaltender, 6'7", 200+ pounds. He gets down on his knees and there's still nothing to shoot at.
Yeah.
And, including the 2 empty netters, 4 goals for him against the Thunderbirds. What a great win. And yet all anybody talked about after that game was the officiating. And, it's the minor leagues. The officials are what they are. They're going to be what they're going to be. I can't spend my time and effort and energy complaining about the refs. And I think that what we saw between Friday night and Saturday night with the exact same officiating crew goes to prove that they don't have an agenda. They're just out there to do their job. And if they're not doing it well, then they're not doing it well. And is what it is.
Yeah.
But this thought of they have something against Springfield and they want Springfield to lose, it's just not true.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I did not I was not able to watch the Friday night game, but I was getting all my notifications, and it was penalty, mixed in, obviously, 6 goals for Springfield, 3 for Belleville. So there were a lot of goals mixed in there. But my take on that is I go into just about every game expecting a few calls to be missed, a few calls to go against the Thunderbirds, and maybe you get 1 or 2 in our favor. And I don't know any of these referees personally, but I don't think anyone is coming in here saying, I hate being in Springfield. Let's just get out of here as quick as possible. I think they are who they are, like you said, and they miss a lot of calls. I think it's fair, like, a ref misses a call, you boo him in that moment, but that's fair.
By the way, I
might be guilty of that.
I'm totally down with that. And ref, you suck. Like that doesn't bother me.
That means we're involved in the game as fans, as we should be. But I am careful not to waste too much of my energy on griping afterwards, I guess. And when it's all said and done, you got to put the puck in the goal. And if you put the puck in the goal more than the other team, you win. Simply put. So, the referees are not there to help one team win one way or another. They're just there to do the best they can. They miss a lot of calls, but they miss a lot of calls both ways, I think. So what was it? There were 12 penalties on, I believe, 12 infractions on the Thunderbirds Saturday night.
Yeah, excluding the fight, because there were 2 fighting majors.
Sure.
So there were 12 total, 8 on Springfield, 4 on Belleville. To me, and again, Jordan Deckard, I respect Jordan Deckard as a referee. And we talked about this earlier in the season when I talked about how there was a preseason game where the ref took the time to explain to the players in the penalty box what the call was and why they called that and what the players need to look out for. That was Jordan Deckard. Right. So so I kind of have a little bit of respect for this guy. I'll also tell you that he believes in his conviction. So if it's a bad call, it's not a bad call. If it's a good call, he doesn't care. I made the call. This is my call.
Sure.
Right? You can complain, you can whine, you can scream, you can gripe, you can boo me, this is the call I made and I'm sticking with it.
Yep.
And, if I'm going to give him any criticism, I thought that he was trying too hard to make up calls. So he makes and the worst one to me was he made a bad call on Springfield, and then like a minute and a half later made an even worse call against Belleville. It was almost like a makeup call. So, is that good? Is that bad? Is that right? Is that wrong? I'm not really one to say, and I'm not in a position to say. But to have this anti-Springfield thing to me is just not accurate. And I will say this, and I love him, and I actually got to talk to him a little bit after the game Saturday night. Adam Gaudette gets sent off with about 7 minutes left. He gets a hooking call. It wasn't a great call. It's the third period in a close game. You can let that stuff go, or you can call it. Either way, I'm not the ref. The way that Adam Gaudette acted in the box, okay, as a parent, as a teacher, if my child acted like that, they'd be put in timeout. If my student acted like that, I'd send him to the principal's office. So the guy got a 10-minute misconduct. Was it the right thing or the wrong thing? I don't know. But again, and I'm not a referee, but if it was if it was the only two things I know, which is being a dad and being a teacher, then bang, straight to the office.
Sure.
So
and you can say, I mean, it's funny, almost, ironic. It is how it worked out in Springfield's favor on Saturday's game, because with 3 minutes left in overtime, and we'll get into breaking down the games in a second, but with 3 minutes left in overtime, there was a penalty, and I don't know, I don't know the guy who it was on the Phantoms.
Reed Gardner.
There you go. Yeah. And he's not happy with the call. I thought, from my vantage point there in the defensive zone right behind the net, I thought it was a good call, but he maybe wasn't happy with whatever. He fires the puck against the boards, and he's out. So, to your point, I can, if I expect a ref to suck, then let him suck. He's going to suck both ways, right? He's going to be a bad ref. And I think even if you're a player, I'm sure you could appreciate that. I would think, personally, I'm not one for makeup calls, because then you don't know how to play the game.
Well, it's not the NBA. You can make those in the NBA.
Yeah, it's hard. You want to know how referee is going to call a game, and even if it fluctuates from game to game to an extent, as a player, you can be flexible and you can figure that out. So, if he's not going to mess around, and I'm sure now I'm sure coaches and players have scouting reports on referees as well. And I'm sure this is going to be in, you said Jordan Decker, right?
Yeah.
And Jordan Decker's scouting report is don't try to make a scene on what you believe is a bad call. He'll toss you on it. He doesn't want to be, it's like the baseball umpire, behind home plate. Don't argue balls and strikes. I called it a ball. I called it a strike. Don't argue with me. I'm not changing it. You argue, you're tossed. So, I can respect that. Like I said, and as a fan, you kind of expect the bad calls. They come with it in the minor leagues, and I boo loudly when I see them. But then I leave it at that, and I don't get caught up in that sort of negative energy of just, they're out to get Springfield, because at the end of the day, if Springfield plays, I mean, they were able to overcome it Friday night. They played better than Belleville.
And for all the griping, Belleville went 2 for 9 on the power play. Springfield went 1 for 5, but Springfield had 3 special teams goals.
Yeah.
So you had the power play, and I know one was an empty netter, but guess what? You had 2 shorthanded goals.
Yeah.
So you had 3 special teams goals. Belleville had 2. 2 of them were shorthanded. We would say the ball don't lie, the puck don't lie. Like, if those are bad calls, it all evens out because you were lights out on special teams.
And if I can just take a second here to appreciate Kessel's shorty. It's funny because Steve, we chat during games, and even when I'm not there, you'll send me, text messages, and we'll chat during the games. And you told me how this was a beautiful shorty, Kessel from Walker, and
McEachern.
Thank you, McEachern.
I think,
and then the Thunderbirds Facebook page actually posted the video of it, and oh man, that was just great. A beautiful saucer pass, a few inches off the ice. The puck doesn't even touch the ice. Kessel flicks it right in. Beautiful, beautiful goal. And
Yeah,
we've spent our time discussing Kessel. And maybe this is the episode where we change our tune a little bit, because he has been playing well.
he was excellent all weekend.
Yeah.
He was fantastic. This is the best weekend I've seen of hockey from Matt Kessel in a long time. And it's funny today. I was putting together a little hype video. Sometimes I like to get weird, and I create little hype videos and I send them to the team, and sometimes they put them on the jumbotron, sometimes they don't. But I had that clip. They give me access to their video clips, and I watched that thing from 3 different angles in slow motion, and I don't think it was on the ice. I think it was probably a quarter of an inch off the ice. But that pass, when McEachern sent it, it was a good 6 inches off the ice, and that thing landed perfectly. And Kessel absolutely hammered that thing. That was one of the more beautiful goals I've seen in a long time. But I mean, again, Kessel, you're killing penalties for a defenseman to not only join the rush and jump into a play, but to have the speed to catch up to and then get yourself in a position to score was awesome. I mean, he was just absolutely all over the ice.
That's a player playing with confidence. It's a team playing with confidence. And even after the Sunday loss, this Thunderbirds team right now is playing with a lot of confidence, as they should. There's a lot of talent on the team. Things are evening out. It's not just the top line. If you look at the box score from Friday night, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different players with points. You have Gaudette, McEachern, and Walker with 2 points each, and then Coughlin, Kalynuk, Kessel, McGing, Laffey, Duzak, Pekka, and Bitton, all with a point. So, these points now are coming from up and down the lineup, which is good. Mm-hmm. Not just your offense, but your defense as well.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned Gaudette tends to be maybe a bit of a streaky player, and I'm not saying he's like cooling off. I mean, he's not scoring at this ridiculous pace, but boy, isn't it nice when, the guy who's carried you for the first 8 games of the season can slow down a little bit, and then you have all this other production. And the second line's been outstanding this weekend.
They have the second line to me has sort of been the lightning rod of this team. But just real quick to go back to Gaudette, and it does, because he's not scoring, feels like he cooled off. He had 4 points this weekend.
Yeah.
So I think he's playing at a very high level. The second, the double McLaffey line, to me, they're the lightning for this team. They're high energy. They're scrappy. They're working both sides of the ice. They're very fun to watch, very exciting. I have nothing but confidence when I see them out there that they're playing well. They seem to have good chemistry together, and they even started the third period, I noticed.
Yeah, and it's interesting Sunday too, because when that line started, it had Will Bitton on the wing with McEachern and McGing. Bitton gets hurt. They bring up Laffey. Now that line is playing so well, and Will Bitton comes back. You'd think, well, he's going to take Laferriere's spot. And Drew Bannister says, well, no, we're going to leave that line the way it is. And so now you have Will Bitton, who is at least, at worst, a second line forward, playing third line minutes with 2 19, 20-year-olds. You know what I mean? So now you have 3 lines that are all functioning properly. You have a second line that can go, and then you have 2 young kids playing with somebody, a veteran that can help elevate their game. And I think that's so huge for their development, but also for the team, talk about rounding out a roster. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, great point. And it probably can't be understated, the leadership role that now Will has with that third line, with both Zachs, and sort of keeping them going. Because I think too, we talked about this at maybe our first or second show. Good things just seem to happen with the Zachs, right? They were scoring goals in the prospect game. They were scoring goals and putting up points with the Blues in the preseason, and it's gotten a little harder for them. They're working. It's not for a lack of effort. I don't, at least that's how I'm seeing it. But it's just, those points, those exciting plays aren't happening at the same clip as they were in the preseason. And I'm sure Will is that calming voice in that line to kind of say, nope, keep plugging away. It'll come. It'll come. And it will. I'm confident that it will.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess just overall generically in the weekend, because here we are talking about the forwards, tip of the hat to the defense, who was all over the score sheet. And, I really think that second pairing of Coghlan and Kalynuk. I mean, Kalynuk had everyone's talking about Dylan Coghlan. Kalynuk had a wonderful weekend. He had a nice fight on Friday, a big goal. They're just sort of all over the ice. And, when we talk about these guys on the roster that aren't being dressed every night, I mean, poor Austin Osmanski can't crack it because the defense is just playing so well. It's like, why mess with something that's working? And we even got into the goaltending, which was spectacular.
Fantastic.
Friday and Saturday.
Yeah. And honestly, it even was on Sunday too. But, to talk about the defense scoring and to get into Saturday's game a little bit, I think, you beat a Phantoms team 3-2 in overtime, and all three of your goals coming off the stick of a defenseman. And I think, if you were to say, all right, well, all our goals are coming from defense tonight, that's not necessarily a recipe for victory. But, the good teams find ways to win different ways. And if the offense isn't coming from your forwards or your top line, the fact that you've got Coghlan with 2 goals, a game winner in overtime, beautiful shot. I think that just speaks to the talent that really is on this team. And not to get ahead of ourselves here, but this is a very talented team. That 2 out of 3 and a 3 of 3 is I'll take that every time they have a 3 and 3. You could win 2 out of the 3.
Absolutely.
I think that's a good thing.
Absolutely. I just wish Carolina would just trade St. Louis Dylan Coghlan, so we just have them.
I'm thinking that, like, I wonder what could St. Louis do? They clearly have, like a firsthand view of him. You've got all of our scouts, St. Louis scouts are here in Springfield seeing him. You've got to think, because and look, right now the Blues defense is kind of, at least from things that I'm reading, are kind of there, stick in the mud almost up there in St. Louis. I guess their defense isn't playing too well. Coghlan might be a piece they might need, but I'm happy he's in Springfield for the time being.
Yeah, and it's, and I think actually you sent me an article talking about St. Louis's decor and how they can't like financially find a way to get Scott Perunovich minutes. And it's like, boy, if that kid can't play, then who can? You're crying out loud.
Yeah. But you even said it too, and I wonder how much of it, like, that same size, the same style, the same makeup as a Krug, and then just having those 2 same style defensemen up there in St. Louis, because they're having trouble finding minutes for everybody, and I wish Scotty P the best, but it's tough for him up there in St. Louis. But back,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just I was gonna change topics a little bit because my ADD kicks in. But have you heard anything about Ryan Suzuki? I've heard, no. I read, but a not reliable source, that Ryan Suzuki, who is on Carolina, has been sent down to Springfield.
Huh. I haven't seen anything yet.
And a guy that hasn't really, so Nick Suzuki is the captain of Montreal, his brother. Mm-hmm. And this guy hasn't really performed, but he's a former first-round pick, 22 years old, playing offense. And, if this is the case, fantastic. Just one more body to throw in there. But even that, you get a first-round pick from a team that's not your affiliate, and your offense is playing well. It's like, well, enjoy the third floor, buddy. I don't know what to tell you. I know they set you down, but we don't have to play you.
Oh, I wonder how that works. I'm just speculating now. I would imagine, because Springfield has no affiliation with Carolina, and so you've got to basically, I would assume and imagine, if you're sending a guy down, you're sending and you're accepting him. If you're St. Louis and accepting him to come to Springfield, you have to have a plan to let him play, because otherwise he'd be just send him to another. Because I think Carolina has their prospects all over the AHL.
Yeah.
Um,
One of the hot topics everybody keeps talking about, which we'll get into later, is Sam Bitten. It's like, why isn't Sam Bitten playing? It's like, well, have you seen the team over the last 6 days? Like, where do you want to put him? Now, I will say, after Saturday's game, I thought to myself, if they win this game, they should sit Adam Gaudette for Sunday, because, again, it's a 3-on-3, but I thought that he got, for lack of a better term, abused on that game Saturday. I thought they were after him. They were cheap shotting him. They were really, any chance they had to hit Adam Gaudette, they took. And I was, by the third period, I'm like, man, somebody lay off of this guy, for crying out loud.
Yeah, well,
so
let's get into Saturday's game. Let's get into Saturday's game. First, Mike, my initial thought was much better with the penalties. Much better with the penalties. I think it was just one. Pekka, and that was at the end of the third. Basically, it overlapped the third and the first 8 seconds of overtime, I believe. So much better with the penalties and the discipline. Do you want to talk about the Gremlins? Do you want to shed light on that? And not your responsibility. It has not your doing, but do you want to shed light into that?
Sure. So, so the horn goes off right in the middle of a stinking power play. And of course, what initially happened to me is I'm standing there, I hear the thing go off, and Joe Duzak, if anybody can find this, Joe Duzak turns and he looks right at me. What the bleep? Why the bleeping? I'm like, dude, like, I don't even have anything in front of me except a microphone, man. Like, it's not me. Like, he just, it had nothing to do with me. But on the far side is our goal, our clock operator. And from what I gather, this is a new system that they have this year. And if you notice sometimes, and I got to be honest, I noticed it in 2 different football games I watched yesterday. If you watch the bottom screen and you watch the time, it'll freeze for like a second, and then it'll freeze for a moment, and then it will like catch itself up. Like it's almost like a computer glitch, like it's buffering. So again, I don't want to say I'm anti-technology, but the more technology they throw at you, the more convoluted it gets. It's like, I just want a car that drives. I don't need one that makes me a cup of coffee, kind of thing.
Sure.
And again, the guy who's been doing it has been doing it for, I don't know, 20 seasons. I mean, he's been here forever. So you're taking these systems, you are teaching a dog new tricks. Okay. Now, again, it's not like the guy over there, Ace, just randomly pressed the button. That new clock has different settings. Like when there's a preliminary game, when the little kids are out there skating around, or it's firefighters and police officers, whatever it is, there's a different setting so that he doesn't have to sit there for that game. He shouldn't have to get here 2.5 hours early so that he can work the pregame. So you kind of put on your setting. It's all running time. The thing knows to go running time, hit the horn, reset itself, restart it. So there's, picture anything in your house, any appliance that has different settings. Like your washing machine is hots and colds and bulky and light loads, right? So from what I gather, there is a setting that is called like interval setting or something like that. And it's somehow, some way, in some way, shape, or form was put onto interval setting. If you notice at the end of the game, they go to overtime, and there was a long break in overtime because they couldn't, the clock couldn't, the new system couldn't recognize that Matthew Pekka had 8 seconds of carryover from his penalty into overtime. And it was this whole like, oh, good line, we got to get out the manual. Like, what does it say on page, Oh, wow. And so this is a product partially of a guy trying to learn a new system and a new board and all this new technology, right? You take somebody driving a 1980 Chevy and you put them in a 2023 Tesla. They're not going to know how to use all the features. And I'm not trying so hard not to throw Ace under the bus. Somehow, some way, a button got pressed to put it on interval setting. And he put in I'm totally guessing. He put in the power play time before the power play began and hit something somewhere. And for me, I don't like touch screen stuff. in my car. I like to drive and still be able to feel the buttons on the radio so I
Yeah.
can change the channel. I like a dial. I don't want to push a button and the volume goes slow. I want to dial. I want to crank that thing. So something somewhere got touched. And the only reason why I think that happened is the second horn went off exactly 60 seconds after the first one did. So, I mean, perfectly 60 seconds, there must have been a setting somewhere that got screwed up. So hopefully this is something that's being worked on and being fixed and addressed, and hopefully that doesn't happen again. But I am willing to blame it about 70% on technology and 30% on operator error. If that's fair enough.
And it is, and it happens. And I had a sense that the issue heading into overtime was that, because I was watching the scoreboard and I noticed that the times kept changing. Like they had Pekka and the Phantoms players penalty remaining time still on the same side, and then there was flipping. I'm like, they must be having a hard time programming it because it's overtime to carry over or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, because Gahagan, the goalie, got a penalty right at the end of
Yes.
regulation. So there were 2 penalties up on the board, and the system, like, it's almost like it they switched it to overtime, and the system was like, it does not compute, like, had no idea how to handle it.
Well, that happens. It happens in games, and the Gremlins hopefully get worked out.
I'm just glad they won. Like,
yeah.
If they gave up a shorthanded goal after that, after the Gremlins, or they lost the game, everyone would be saying, well, if we didn't get the horn going off in the middle of our power play, we was, thank God they won, and that's a non-issue, and we can all kind of move on. But yeah, the inside scoop there is technology, man. It's
technology. It is. It's and as a teacher, I mean, you teach in technology. I don't, but I'm always nervous to use technology in any sort of way. And now we have these, fancy screens in every classroom to project different things, and touch screen, and it's also desktop share. I don't understand.
I mean, just trying to put grades in as a teacher. It's like, now we got to go online, and we got to go to the website, and we got to, like, can I just give me a piece of paper and I'll tell you what each kid's got? Like,
I give me a pencil, give me the report card, I'll write the grade in it, and good to go. Yeah.
So again, I know we're not the only ones dealing with that in the industry, just in life in 2023. But it's Monday night. I want to watch the Bruins. I think they're on, like, I don't know, some streaming service. I got to
figure that out.
Password and send an email confirmation, and then can't use that password because you already used it. And then we send you a text message with 6 numbers, and you got to punch, like, oh God, I can't be bothered.
Yeah.
So
it could be tough.
There's my get off my lawn moment, I guess, for the show. Get off my lawn. But going back to Saturday's game again, I know we mentioned it, that second D pair, a goal for Kalynuk, 2 goals for Coughlin, 3 points for Coughlin. And I'll tell you, Matt, you had the best seat in the house for that overtime winner. I saw that video, and I'm sure other people saw that video you posted. That was awesome.
Yeah, if you have it, so I'm right in section 1. When it's overtime, it's the offensive zone, and you could see it. I saw it happening. It was a 4-on-3 because of the penalty, and I saw it happen. And Coughlin has it, and I'm like, oh, he's there. So one more pass to shift the defense, to shift the guy over a few more feet, and I said it's right there. And sure enough, Coughlin gets it back, I believe, from Gaudette, and puts it glove side, perfect shot, clink right. Oh, beautiful shot. But it wasn't all good Saturday, I'll be honest. I thought their puck control, I don't know if you could tell at ice level, but I felt like their puck control, I don't know if it just was a puck that for whatever reason was just a little bouncy, but it was just a bouncing puck, and I think it led to a lot of errant passing. You can tell I didn't feel like it was sloppy play, because it just was a weird, they just had trouble controlling the puck, and a few inches a puck bouncing off of Will Bitten's stick onto his skate, and then he loses possession, and little things like that throughout the game. But again, as I said earlier, if I told you they would struggle controlling the puck, they'd only get goals from their defense, you'd think, That tough one. Wasn't their
Yeah.
night. And to come out with the win, I think good teams find ways to win that way.
I think both of these games, they to me, it was staying tough and overcoming. I mean, you had 9 penalties against in the first game, and you overcame that and you won. And I thought the same thing about Saturday. And this is the imperfections of hockey are one of my favorite things about it is sometimes you're just an inch off. You're a fraction too late. The puck's a fraction too far. You're a fraction too slow. That's what I think makes the game as great as it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you can't fix hockey games because it's so like imperfect.
Yeah.
And I thought that they did. They sort of overcame all of that stuff in both of these wins. And especially against a team that they've played now 3 times. Wednesday morning is going to be the 4th time they played Lehigh Valley. They sort of got a pretty good idea of who each team is. And I will say it's nice for them because this goaltender Gahagan, I believe he's their 3rd string guy. I think the first string guy got called up. The second string guy got hurt the night before. So he's got another 3rd string guy. And I actually thought he played all right. But that overtime goal looked to me like a goal that, I mean, Zarenko would have had that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not taking anything away from Coughlin's shot, but that was definitely a savable shot.
It was savable. So. It was savable. It wasn't redirected or anything like that. There wasn't too much. I think Pekka was sort of, a little bit. I don't think he had a clear view of it, is what I'm trying to say. Pekka was down there, but he had a clear view, and it right over the glove. I do think I did notice, and I don't want to call anybody out, but I don't know if you saw Bolduc. He looked a little slow Saturday, and I actually was thinking that he would get a rest day on Sunday. He's one of those guys. I feel like he's been so close to just having a breakout, 4-point weekend kind of thing. And he's still chugging along. He's fighting, but he just looked a little bit like half a step behind. And then he did take a pretty nice hit in the early in the second period, kind of right over by you, if I remember correctly. And he was kind of shaking his leg a little bit. Never came out. I noticed when his shift did end, he didn't get looked at or talked to by the trainers or anything like that. But it was just something I was noticing and thought he might have been ready for a rest day on Sunday. But I mean, he played Sunday, so.
Yeah, there were 3 of them. Bolduc, Hugh McGing got smashed right in front of me.
Yeah.
And he was in pain, and he went off. And Mackenzie McEachern on the far, if from your seats on the far left-hand side, was shaking his arm a little bit. And again, none of them went down the tunnel. They all stayed with it. So, I mean, hockey guys being hockey guys, but you're right. I was, it's a little while where they, you keep an eye on them, whether they go down the tunnel or, what the situation is. But they, again, this is what happens in these 3-3s. These guys get banged up, and you just hope that you come out on Sunday afternoon and everybody's still intact, for crying out loud. So, I do also want to touch briefly your thoughts on the Tommy Cross, just the bobbleheads, the tribute videos, the whole thing. But first, I want to just mention our good friends at White Lion Brewing and their new location in Amherst on North Pleasant Street. And of course, right in downtown Springfield at Tower Square and 1500 Main Street, the place to go prior to Springfield Thunderbirds games. We were, again, like I said, I stopped in there real quick, and that was loaded with T-Birds fans. So definitely a place to go before the game. Parking is a bit tricky in downtown Springfield, so make sure you park in the Tower Square garage, then swing into White Lion, show them your T-Birds ticket, and they'll validate your parking for you. And while you're there, grab yourself some Boomer Nachos, Seuss mac and cheese, some wings, some beers, 20 plus they have on tap. And don't forget, you can find your favorite White Lion beers in your local liquor store cooler. White Lion Brewing, now in Amherst and in downtown Springfield, a proud supporter and local sponsor of your SRG podcast. Make sure you tell them that the boys from SRG sent you. And of course, if you go there and Matt Baker's there with the family, make sure you say hi to Matt Baker as well. What did you get?
We're there as often. Yeah. We had the nachos. We had the buffalo mac and cheese bites. I'm sorry. And then some chicken tenders for the kids.
Nice.
So it was good.
Well, yeah, bring the kids. Don't feel like it's a brewery. You can't bring the kids. Bring the kids.
Yeah,
along.
my kids actually they enjoy going. They have a nice little setup where you can, right next to the bar, they have the window. You can see the guy cooking and they brew behind the bar. Everything you can see it all. But my kids, they enjoy it. They enjoy it. It's a nice spot. Very comfy,
Awesome.
family friendly.
Awesome. Love to hear that. Well, big thanks to those guys. And yeah, I was glad. By the way, I caught Tommy Cross coming into the game, and he came up to me, man, being on your podcast was so much fun. Like, you ever want me to come back on? I'm happy to. I'm like, Tommy, anytime, buddy. Give me your phone number. We'll make something happen. So you might see more Tommy Cross just because, again, he loves his podcasts. But I was really, really impressed with that tribute video. And I know a lot of places do it, but when they said in my headset it was a 6.5 minute video, I'm like, 6.5 minutes? Like, who the hell's talking for 6.5 minutes? But you get Trent Whitfield, and you get Cam Atkinson, and you got Stanley Cup winning head coach Bruce Cassidy, and you got Jerry York and Brian DeMoulin, and all these guys that have played so many NHL games and so much hockey. Kevin Hayes. Boy, that's got to feel awesome. I mean, good shout out to the team for getting those clips, but man, as a player, that's got to just feel so awesome.
Yeah, I thought the night was great. Funny little story. So after we were at White Lion, and my older son Tyler was like, "Dad, like, it's 6:00. We got to go." I'm like, "Well, Tyler, we're not going to be the first 3,000 fans get about." No, like, we got to go, Dad. We can't miss it. We can't miss it. So we we were a little bit later than we had originally wanted to be, but funny story, as we're walking up the stairs, and we go into like the Will Call season pass security, and we go in through that way. And so as we're walking up, we run into Tommy and Nate, who were just kind of making their way onto the concourse, and my younger son Jake saw him first, and he like freezes right at the corner. He's like, "Tommy Cross." And I get there, and you can see, and he says hi to my kids, and then I introduce, "Hey, Tommy, Matt Baker from the podcast," and he goes, "Oh yeah, how are you?" And then he looks, "Oh wait, I met your kids on the podcast," and he calls them over and takes a picture. And it was also my son's birthday party, so he had 2 friends with him, and hey friends, come on in here, come in the picture, and just so nice, such a nice guy. And then my first thought was, when we got onto the concourse, we're the bobbleheads. So I don't know if you knew this, Steve. They actually had a setup over right behind the kids club table, over behind section 17, I believe.
Okay.
And so they basically, because Tommy was there in person handing out the bobbleheads to everybody,
which is fantastic.
Which is great. Normally, like, you
never get that.
Yeah, Joel Hofer's bobblehead night. You walk in, and as you go through security, you get your box, and that's totally fine. And so my kids are nervous, like, "Oh, we missed him. I'm like, "No, we didn't miss him. Like, we have to come over here." And so we wait in line, and then we see Tommy again, and he recognizes my boys, of course, and is told me, he's like, "Oh, I can't wait to come back on the show." So we'll get Tommy back on, a few times, maybe just talk hockey, give his analysis on things. And but I thought it was a great night. It was a fun night, and capped off with an overtime win. So how could you want anything? You can't write that any better.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, one of the nicest guys you'll come across. I mean, just a true pro. And I'm glad he got that night. I'm glad he got that recognition. This is why I love working for this team. I mean, I like, and Nate, and I don't, well, he's your boss, Steve. He is. But Nate Costa, he works for you, the fan, the listener. You guys want Shake, Rattle, and Goal to be played after a win? Fine, we'll play Shake, Rattle, and Goal. You guys want to do Isotopes? We'll do Isotopes. You guys want Tommy Cross bobblehead night? We'll do Tommy Cross bobblehead night. He has the pulse of the fan base, and that's why, I love working for, the thing with the Maine Mariners warm-up jerseys, and I don't know if you caught that, but, 2 nights of wearing the Maine Mariners jersey, who, by the way, is the affiliate of the Bruins, not even St. Louis, to raffle them off to donate the money to the families in Lewiston. Like, what a great idea.
Yeah.
And, Nate got us all the off ice guys. We all have new jackets now. It's been maybe 2 or 3 years. We have our little AHL jackets. And now on the sleeve, there's a JD for Jay Denver, who, again, we talked about, passed away, and he was the off ice. Like, what a nice touch. Like, holy smokes. I love working for this team. I love working for this organization. They're class. They're top notch. You know, back in the day, you worked for an AHL team, and it was constant changeover. Guys, they start here and then they go to do other things.
Yeah.
And the sales staff, Lauren and John Jones and Frank and and Ryan and Luke and Lucas on photography, they all stay because they're like, why would I leave? This place is awesome. I love showing up to work every day. So just tip of the hat to the front office staff and to Nate and everybody over there for putting that whole thing together, and the video and the tributes, and the whole thing was just awesome.
Yeah,
So,
I thought it was a great night. Fun night all around, and well deserved for Tommy Cross there.
So moving towards Sunday, and again, like I said off the top, I really didn't catch much of this game. In fact, I have to be totally honest. I turned it on, and it was the Thunderbirds were up 2-1, and then immediately after I turned the game on, Bridgeport scored, and then Bridgeport immediately scored again, and I said, okay, well, I'm just turning this off now because clearly it's me. Like clearly it's me. So Bridgeport ain't very good this year, which is good.
And you know what? So I watching it, they were tired. They had tired legs. I mean, you look at the first period. I think they had 5 shots on goal to Bridgeport's like 13 or 15. 13 shots to Springfield's 5. And they went into the third period up 2-1. I thought Z played great. Scott Walker, Aussie.
Walker,
2 goals.
Nathan Walker.
Nathan Walker. Shorty, power play goal. Like, he's all over the place. He was playing hard. They all played hard. They just I think they just tired legs. The second goal, Callie Rosen was, I thought, in good position defensively. He blocked the shot. It went right off his shin guard and bounced. It like the kid didn't even have to move his stick, and Z was out of place now because it ricocheted off of Callie Rosen. So, it just, the puck wasn't bouncing for you, tired legs. I thought the Thunderbirds did have, especially in the third period, a few scrambles right in front of Appleby, the Bridgeport goalie there, where, over the last few weeks, you're kind of like used to Gaudette putting that in. He couldn't. But there really wasn't much to say other than that. I kind of, if you just look at the box score, it looks like Bridgeport was peppering Zarenko and dominating play. It didn't really play out that way as far as from my perspective. They had a lot of shots. They weren't sprawling saves by Zarenko. He was in position to make them. And I think that's one thing. The team is tired, but these goalies are fresh. And we'll get into this a little bit. Actually, we could kind of get into it now.
Sure.
We had a question on Facebook about the goalie rotations, and is this going to keep up? I mean, I have no idea what they're going to do, but if you break it down, Zarenko with his 6 starts is 4-2 record, a 2.52 goals against, and a 9.29 save percentage. Subban in his 5 starts, team is 2-3. He's got a 2.86 goals against and a 9.05 save percentage. So, they're both playing well. And it seems like the rotating every other one, it doesn't seem like one has completely broken away from the other as far as which one is their starter. It'll be interesting this week with a game Wednesday and then Friday, Saturday, who's going to get the 2 starts. Or, how that plays out. Do you give Zarenko Wednesday and Friday and let Subban play Saturday? Like, I think that could be telling how they split these 3 games. But if it ain't broke, and Ryan actually made an interesting point. I didn't realize this. 3 in the first 11 games of the season is the Thunderbirds' magic number. When they score 3, those are their 6 wins.
Interesting.
When they're 2 or less, those are their 5 losses.
Wow.
So,
I mean, I like you, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And like, as a Bruins fan, it made me mad last year because they switched the goalies so much all season. Then they get to the playoffs and they're like, all right, we're going with one guy. It's like, well, why? Well, that's not how it's traditionally done. You can't have two goalies in the playoffs. It's like, well, why? I mean, and that's across sports, but like in baseball, forever you needed a starting pitcher who could go 8 innings.
Mm-hmm.
When's the last time a starting pitcher went 8 innings and threw 136 pitches in a baseball game? It doesn't happen anymore. It's just not. Quarterbacks are supposed to stay in the pocket and throw the ball in football. Not anymore. So like eventually things change over time, and I have no problem with experimenting, both as with the Bruins and the Thunderbirds and whoever else, dual goaltenders. Like there's no reason. Marty Brodeur could play 70 games a season. Great for Marty Brodeur and Patrick Roy and all those guys. Having two goalies that can alternate, keeping them fresh to get from October to June, what's the harm in that if they're both playing well? And I would expect it to be 2 games for Subban, 1 for Zarenko, and then they're each my math is terrible. What, 9 games apiece or something like that?
That'll put them at 7 apiece. 7
apiece. So I don't see why you change that.
I do think
on Wednesday and Saturday.
I think for right now, it's clearly working, and you have two goalies that are playing well. I do think at some point, and it'll be interesting. I hope we get to talk to, hopefully on Thursday at White Lion, maybe we get to speak to Joey Duzak or Wyatt Kalina, because my question for them though is the style of play of goaltending, how that impacts the back line on the defense. You know, some goalies like you to, how are you playing your passing lanes? You know, how are you aggressive? Forechecking or back checking and things like that. So certain goalies might like a certain style of defense. I think eventually it will be helpful for the team to say, no, this is, but at the same time, teams are always used to two goalies. So, if Subban's in net, this is how you need to play. If Zarenko's in net, this is how you need to play. And for right now, I think it's working. And I would expect it to kind of continue, at least for a little while. It's a marathon of a season.
But that's such a good point, though, Matt, because Subban loves to handle the puck. If there's anything I've noticed, he loves to handle the puck. And so, especially breaking out of your own zone or coming back into your own zone, the puck goes behind the net. Some goalies might just stop the puck and let you come around the boards and skate into it. Other goalies want to get it. They want to handle it. They want to flip it to you up at the blue line. They want to make a pass. Mm-hmm. And, not that, I haven't noticed as much with Zarenko, but I knew going into it, and I'm watching how much Subban loves to handle the puck. Yeah. And you're right. As a defenseman, that really changes your approach in terms of just simple things, little things, like you said, passing lanes, getting the pucks, breakouts, all that stuff. So
how they communicate. So I would think at some point you're going to see one of these goalies. You're going to ride a hot streak, for 2 weeks. Maybe Zarenko gets 80% of the starts. But every team is always used, especially in the AHL. Last year, even with Hofer and Zarenko, you played two goalies. Hofer was your dominant starter.
It was like 65-35 or something like that.
Something like that, right?
Yeah.
But I think it was like every 3 to Zarenko's 1. So there's not as much continuity as last year, but you have two goalies that are playing well and playing equal, and I probably coming into the season, you probably expected Subban to probably be to play a little bit more, but Zarenko's playing great. So
yeah,
I think for the foreseeable future, I think it's fine to have them rotating, but eventually, and it's a marathon season, eventually I think you'll see one of them kind of take the lead a little bit.
Definitely.
We had another question about Sam Bitten and home ice playing time. You touched upon it, and who you taking out?
Yeah.
Who you taking out? And again, I'm not, this is not at all a shot against Sam, but you're trying to work on offense. You're trying to work on the continuity. You're trying to get your line mates to gel. And if Sam's role is that enforcer role, you don't need the enforcer unless there's a game you need the enforcer. And it just might have to kind of work that way. I mean, believe me, I want to see him play. My kids want to see him play in person. and I'm waiting, but
Yeah.
it'll be there soon enough. I think that's my kind of take on it.
Yeah, I mean, if he's going to go anywhere, it's to the third line, and I mean, I'm sorry, the fourth line,
Fourth.
and Drew Callen, Mikhail Abramov, Kean Washkirk. I mean, Kean Washkirk, I think, has been one of the best forwards over the last 2 weeks.
Mhm.
So, it's stuff that doesn't show up on the score sheet, but I'm not taking him out of the lineup. So, I know the fans are interested in that, and again, Wyatt Kalynuk steps up and fights. Leo Loof has been physical as heck. I think
He's
game
been great.
Leo Loof
I meant
better
to
and
talk
better.
about him. He's been very impressive to me. He puts himself in good positions. He's physical. He's not backing down, and he's kind of been that way since day one. So I like what Leo Loof is doing.
Yeah, and again, 21 years old.
Yeah.
So another young kid who he gets overlooked. I think Leo Loof, but I think that's part of the situation. And injuries are going to happen, stuff like that's going to happen. Guys are going to get cold. Guys are going to need a night off. I don't think. Again, although we did talk about it, I wouldn't have hated to see a Bolduc, a Gaudette, somebody
McGing.
like that, McGing, like, yeah, he got roughed up. Somebody like that have a night off on Sunday, and that's when you would go to your Sam Bittens. I don't think there's room right now. So I think everybody's got to patiently wait for the UFC fighter to get let out of the game. So we'll see. And I know we said it last week. I love to see what else he has. I know he's not just out there to punch people in the face. I like to know what else he's got going on.
We had another question about the referees blowing the whistle and sort of how that works when a player gets injured. Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's kind of to the discretion of the referee. I believe if it's a head injury, the whistle's supposed to be made immediately. If a player goes down after a check, if it's a lower body injury or an upper body injury, an arm or something like that, as long as they are away from the play can continue. And then once sort of that shift is kind of ending or the ref deems it unsafe, that's when they blow the whistle. So I think there was a little bit of a question in regards to I think Callie Rosen getting hurt and the refs not blowing the whistle. But I think it's just a judgment call.
Yeah.
Onto the ref. If it's a head injury, I believe, or if like a goalie helmet comes off, that's a whistle immediately. But other than that,
oftentimes too, it's possession. Like once your
Yeah.
team gets possession, then they'll blow the whistle.
Mhm.
I think I didn't see it, but Ruslan Ishakov's injury looked more severe. I mean, I don't even think he was putting any weight on his leg when he came off the ice. So I believe that's what they're referencing was the Ishakov injury on Sunday.
Yeah.
But
even that, they I think they played for a few seconds after that. He was down for a few seconds before. So I think it's just a referee's judgment, and if the puck is away, if from that injured player, they kind of can let it go for a few seconds. But
yeah, different than it was a long time ago. I remember guys, had head injuries and they're skating to the wrong bench, and their teammates are reaching out their sticks to drag them towards the bench. Like the days of that happening to Ron Francis are long gone. So
Ronnie Francis, Kessel, that was another question. Kessel, how he's playing. I think he's been playing great. I know we were hard on him earlier in the year. I think he's made a few silly mistakes early in the season, but nothing catastrophic. I have not seen those wrong place, wrong time, costly turnovers this year. So, good for you. Good for you, Matt Kessel. Keep it up. You can tell he's a leader. He's got the A, and he's playing well. Him and Rosen are pairing up pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think all three pairs are really cooking right now. I gotta be honest, and let's get off Kessel. I've been very impressed with Joe Duzak. I mean, here's a guy who's, again, undersized. I think he's 5'9", 5'10" for a defenseman. But every time I look and I'm wondering who's making the play, who's making the stop, who's moving the puck, it seems to just always be Joe Duzak. And I don't know anything about this guy. But I'm pretty sure he was manning the power play unit on Saturday night too. So, between Loof and Duzak and Kessel and Rosen and Kalynuk and Coughlin, they're in really good shape. And then the goalies, I mean, they're just great in their own zone. And, I know they lost to Bridgeport, but they got outshot, 39-19 or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
they could have lost 6-2 and didn't. And I think that, volume of shots are what they are, but if they're a volume of shots that aren't good, high quality scoring chances, like you said, then, let them fire it all day.
They're easy. They're easy saves. It's weird. So that game Sunday, you can tell they were outplayed. It's a weird game. I don't know. They were outplayed, but not you didn't look at that game saying, oh, Bridgeport is a better team than the Thunderbirds. It was just weird. The shots that the Thunderbirds did have, in my opinion, were of better quality. They when they did put together a few back-to-back lines that played well, they had it. They just couldn't put together a long shot. And I'll go back to tired legs.
Yeah, no doubt.
So,
all right. So if we look ahead to our upcoming week again, as this episode drops on a Tuesday, because I'm gonna get this done on Tuesday, Matt. We will have a school day game against Lehigh Valley again. 10:30 a.m. Definitely the loudest game of the year because all of these kids just go bananas. They play Baby Shark in the arena and everybody just loses their mind. And just real quick, I found a way to beat the system to where I turn these games into a field trip for my students.
Perfect.
So I bring 10 of my students and they all shadow different, like one person shadowing photography, one doing video, one's upstairs with Luke, one's shadowing Kevin Johnson. That way I can get 2 paychecks at the same time. Sorry, did I say that? And so last year I was so focused on making sure that all my students were doing their thing that I kind of forget that they just absolutely collapsed in that game. It was just bad game last year. So
I think they gave up 4 third period goals, if I remember correctly.
And then lost in overtime, I think.
Yes. I remember because again, I'll just get the notifications on my phone at work. And I remember like, this can't be real. This can't be real. What is going on? That was a bad game. So hopefully there's not a repeat of that performance.
Yeah. Meanwhile,
I wouldn't expect it. I wouldn't expect it.
No, me neither. But I'm just too busy looking at the clock going, crap, the buses leave at 1:55. I got to get all these kids on the bus, on our van and back to school before 1:55. We're not going to make it. So,
school day game against the Phantoms, and then Friday night it starts their 3-game roadie. You got Friday night at Providence, Saturday at Bridgeport, and they get Sunday to rest. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, if you're doing 3 games a week, this is the way to do it.
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday, Friday or Sunday, but sprinkle in your Wednesdays and again, I don't know what the attendance number looks like on a Wednesday night. We'll find out. We have some Wednesday games coming up. The Thunderbirds do love that promotion, which I think is genius. Where
I think it's great. I love it. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Your ticket subs. It's
winning Wednesday.
It's like throwing down a 3-team parlay. It's like, you never know what's going to happen. So, but we'll see. And again, I like the fact that they do get a rest from the 3-3 and we'll see what it looks like come next week when we record after those 3 games we have this week.
Absolutely. I guess what I'm kind of looking forward to out of these next 3 games, I said this last week and it's still the same. I'm curious to see how the goalie rotation continues. I kind of expect it to be the same. I would expect Malcolm Subban to get 2 of these games, Zarenko 1. And how I would expect in these 3 clump games to see some rest from some of these star players. Because if you look at it, they did shake up lines 2 and 3 when Will Bitton got hurt. But other than that, other than your few 4-line guys, these top 3 lines have not had nights off. So I'm just curious to see if this is the time to do it. If maybe it is a school day game in the middle of the afternoon, do you put Sam Bitton? And that'll be interesting if Sam plays Wednesday afternoon.
Of
all these kindergartners, and he's just scrapping. Now that actually would be pretty fun.
I mean, that's not a bad idea. But
there you go. Here's your home ice playing time, Sam. Go play in front of the kindergartners. That's awesome.
Between Bitton, Jamison Reese, and now if you have Ryan Suzuki coming down, you do have 3, and then you have Austin Osmanski on the back end, who is he's played a lot of hockey at this level with this team. So it's not like you're throwing in fresh faces you've never seen before. I mean, brand spanking new kids whose diapers need to be changed. Like, these are guys that you can rely on for a night if you need to give other guys rest. So, I mean, a game against Bridgeport on a Saturday night, if Bridgeport continues to play as poorly as they do, the Thunderbirds game aside, that's a great time to throw in some fresh bodies. So, yeah, we'll see. It's a good point. So, well, we appreciate everybody tuning into this one. And again, if you are listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, you're watching on YouTube, we do appreciate it. Feel free to give us a like and a subscribe. Tell your friends. You guys, every time I go to a game, somebody else is at the game that I know, and they're like, "Hey, we haven't been to a game in a while." Well, come on out. We're happy to have you. Those are the people that we love to have listening to the podcast, of course. And we want to thank our friends at White Lion Brewing for sponsoring us as well. You can check out their new location in Amherst and, of course, at Tower Square in downtown Springfield, right where we will be again on November 16th, 6 to 8 p.m., celebrity bartending with the guys at Rock 102 for the Mayflower Marathon. We will be there live. So come on down, come hang out. Again, we'll be live on YouTube. So if anybody's wondering where you can catch it, if you can't get down there, come say hi to us or watch us on YouTube. But we're looking forward to that. I can't wait to take this show on the road, Matt. And do it fun. And do it like in person. Like, we see each other all the time, you and I, but we never do the podcast in the same room. Yeah. So that's going to be a lot of fun too.
That'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. And we are just, I'm getting new to all this social media stuff. And I did just update our Shake, Rattle, and Goal on Instagram. So check us out on that as well. And we appreciate all the likes, the shares, and all the support. And keep commenting. We want to have this podcast for you, the listeners. So if there are questions that you want answers to, send them our way, and we'll do our best to try to get them answered. So thank you for listening, everyone. And let's go T-Birds.